Hello viewers, and welcome back to Phil's Garage for episode 11 and the last episode of this GS1000G resto. So we're certainly on the final stretch. Tried to get it registered, but it failed because of the fork seals. So got a bit of work to do there to change the fork seals. There's a few other things that I want to do before it's finally sort of finished. So got a few parts to order, like fork seals, brake pads, etc. So I don't know how long this video is going to be. It might be a long one. There's a fair few bits and pieces to do, but let's get on with it and finish this bike finally. Okay, so back to the workshop. So I've started pulling these brakes off. Everything does seem a bit sort of greasy, so probably a good idea to change these pads. So I'm just pulling them apart just to see what the pads look like. I might have some pads off another Suzuki, so they look similar to the Katana ones, but anyway, I'll see what I've got. Otherwise I'll order some new sets. Okay, so I want to take these forks out completely. So I whipped off the front wheel and the front mudguard. The next thing to do is to loosen off this top cap of the forks before they come out of the bike, because once the forks are out, trying to undo that with nothing to grab onto is quite difficult. So the other trick is to make sure that this top triple clamp is loosened off, because if you're trying to undo this, that's actually clamped around there and actually will hold that quite tightly. So trying to get that undone while that's still tightened. So we need the bottom triple clamp tightened so it holds the fork, and the top one loosened. We'll loosen this off, just loosen it off, and then once that's done, then we can loosen both and take the forks out, and then that should be easy enough to get undone once they're out of the bike. Okay, so that's the forks out and sitting on the bench, so we can start working on them, give them a clean, change the seals and top them up with fork oil. It's actually handy because one of the things I wanted to do was straighten out these brackets, because it would seem like these blinkers are facing backwards. So it looks like this bracket is slightly bent on both sides, actually. This side worse than the other. So this makes it easier for me to get this bracket off, straighten it out, and then before I put the forks back in. So yeah, that's handy as well. So now that the forks are off and it's all front end is all loose, I've realised that the triple clamp bearings, the steering bearings, feel quite notchy. So probably a good idea to change them while I've got everything apart. So it's another job to do. Right, so got the two forks draining there, sort of pumped out most of the oil, but I'll just let that sit there for a while and empty the rest of the oil out before we start pulling them apart and change the seals. Right, so because of the way this choke cable runs, which basically runs down the center of the triple clamp and then out the bottom here, which means the tank has to come off again. I'm sick of taking this tank off and on and off and on. Anyway, we've got to get the triple clamp apart so we can change the bearings. Okay, so that's the steering head triple clamps taken off. So yeah, I guess we just wait for parts, because we're waiting for steering head bearings and we're waiting for brake pads. So probably steering head bearings would be good if they came in first, so we can start getting that back together. I'll probably give these steering heads a bit of a clean, probably a fresh coat of paint over the triple clamps while I've got it apart. So yeah, we just wait for the mail.
Several days later.
Right, so the new steering head bearings just arrived there. I managed to pop the old races out of the top. That was fairly easy. You can knock that out from underneath, and then the one at the bottom is sort of a bit flush on the inside, but put a big screwdriver in from this side and then knocked the screwdriver, which managed to knock the race out from underneath. And then also got the race off from the actual triple clamp itself. That wasn't too hard, just sort of knocked that off with a chisel, so without damaging anything. So we're ready to put the new races on. Right, so I've managed to press the new races in using the old races. So you got the top one and the bottom one. Bottom one's a little bit recessed, whereas the top one sits a little bit proud. The next thing to do is to pack these bearings with grease and then use my press to press that bottom one down onto the triple clamp. And I'll use the old the old race and a bit of pipe to press that down into place using my press. Okay, that's the new bearings in, pressed on, tightened up until that nut is too tight, and then backed off about a quarter of a turn. So on to the next thing. Right, so I think I mentioned that I thought these brackets on the side of the headlight holding the indicators were bent. So I've been sort of fiddling around with them, trying to get them to go straight, and just wondering, it just doesn't seem right. And what I've realised is that these brackets are actually not off the 1000G. The correct brackets are these ones. So, I mean, they're a bit rusty, but they're the actual right brackets, and they will make the indicators sit at the right angle. So, I don't know where these came from, but they're going to be removed, and I'll see if I can tidy up those, the correct ones, and I'll be putting those on. So the blinkers should be sitting at the right angle. Okay, so I'll give them both forks a bit of a clean. So it's time to start pulling them apart so we can change these seals. Now, if you remember, I already loosened this top bolt here when it was still in the triple clamp, so this should come off quite easily. Okay, so that's popped out. And push this up. Seal, and then the spring. Cool. Now the next thing to do is to get the bolt at the bottom there undone. And one of the things that Phil gave me when I bought the bike was this tool. So it's a tool for doing these forks. So it's got a 3/8 fitting at the end there, and then I've got a variety of different fittings to slot into the bottom there, so we can keep that still and then undo the Allen bolt that's at the bottom. So let's find out which one we need. Okay, so it turns out that the fitting we need is this 19mm hex head, which I tried on the first fork, but that bolt in the bottom there was just so tight, this thing was twisting. So I went back to a tool that I made myself some time ago, which is just this rod with a 19mm nut welded to the end of it, which is a bit thicker, so it certainly wasn't twisting as much. even so, one of them came apart reasonably easily. The other one had to get some heat onto that bottom screw to, or bolt to get that undone. But basically, yeah, the forks are apart, including that bit there. So now the next challenge will be getting the old seals out. So we'll see how we go with that. Okay, so I managed to get those old seals out reasonably easily. Basically, the method was just to cut the inner part of the seal out, and then that gives you this metal edge to hook underneath, and with a bit of a screwdriver levering it up slowly around, they both popped out pretty easily. So we'll give these fork bottoms a good clean and then install the new seals. Alright, so come to a bit of a standstill because the seals that came with the bike, the spare ones, are not the right size, so they must be for another bike. Which is a bit of a bummer, so I've ordered some of the correct size. So I do actually have one, but one doesn't really help me. So yeah, I have to wait for those to arrive. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So out of this simple fork seal change, there's a few other things that I need to do before I put it all back together. One of the other things is, I'm assuming you can see that. This is the Speedo, and there's just 2 little screws that hold the little faceplate on there. One of those is missing, but it's actually down floating around in the bottom of the Speedo, and as I ride along it bounces up and down and has obviously been doing a bit of damage to this faceplate, so that's a bit of a pain, but has to be done. So while I'm doing all this, I'll also take the Speedo apart, take that glass off and put that screw back in. So thanks, Mr. Suzuki. Okay, so here is the Speedo out of the bike, and I can immediately see that somebody's been in here before, because if you look at this edge here, it's all been folded back, so get in there. So in some ways that's probably a good thing, because that means that getting this metal rim off and into the guts of it might be a bit easier. But I just wish that the person who was in there before had tightened those screws up. Anyway, let's rip the front of it off. Okay, so I managed to prise that ring off without too much damage, and there's the screw. There's where it needs to go. I'll clean up this faceplate a bit, but I think that down there is just wear. I don't think that's dirt. So anyway, we'll tidy that up and then press it back together. So that's another job almost finished. So here's another tip for you budding restorers out there. Don't try and clean the faceplate of these things with an alcohol wipe, because that's what happens. Started to strip the paint off. Luckily, I had another Speedo in my box of tricks, so I just popped the needle off and swapped them over, so disaster averted. Okay, that's now back together. 2 screws in there tightly and a new faceplate. So yeah, that's one job done. Right, so that's the dash back together, that screw back in, and that faceplate changed. So on to the next thing. Okay, so the new fork seals just arrived, so we can start putting these forks back together, getting this bike back on the road. Let's do that. Okay, so those new fork seals went straight in. So now it's a matter of just sliding the the tops in and bolting them in. Okay, so they're screwed back together with the bolt in the bottom. So now it's a matter of putting oil in. So I'm going to use 15 weight, and the magic number is 213 milliliters of fork oil. So let's fill these up, put the springs back in, and then the top cap, and then they're ready to go back in the bike. Okay, so those forks are cleaned, new seals, new oil, and back together and ready to go back into the bike. Okay, yeah, sorry I didn't film a lot of that, but that was a bit of a pain working out where all the cables ran, where the speedo cable ran, where the brake line went, to go behind this bit or in front of this bit or to the left or to the right. Anyway, I think it's all done now. So the only thing left to do is to put the brakes together, and then we should be finished, I think. Right, all back together. New brakes, new fork seals, new fork oil, and new steering head bearings. So I'll head off tomorrow morning and try again to see if we can get this past Rego and get some plates on it and make it legal and have it finished. So yeah, see you in the morning. Now, one of the things I want to do is to calibrate this fuel gauge. If you remember in one of the episodes, the fuel sender unit in the tank is actually from a Suzuki four-wheel drive car, which I modified to fit. Pretty close. It's certainly working, but I want to try and calibrate it so that the fuel gauge is quite useful. I mean, the fuel gauges on these things are never really very accurate, but what I'd like to do is try and get to the point where if the tank is half empty, then it'll actually show halfway on the meter there. So it's all electrical. So what I've done is, if I short the two wires down here from the tank, then it certainly goes up to full, in fact a bit past full. And I determined by the use of a few resistors that around about 27 ohms gives you a half tank reading on the meter. So what I need to do is first of all determine how much fuel this tank holds. The manual says some of them are 17 litres, some of them are 22, so I'm not quite sure exactly which model it is. So what I'm going to do is going to empty the tank completely, and then I've got a jerry can that I know exactly has 20 litres in it. So I'm going to fill the tank and try and work out the capacity of the tank, and then I'm going to empty out half of the tank so that I know that there's a half a tank full of fuel in there, and then measure the resistance coming from the sender unit, and then with the use of another resistor in parallel get that so it's 27 ohms, so that when the tank is half full, the meter should be reading half full. So let's try that. So the first step is to empty the tank completely. So I've got a hose on there leading down to another jerry can that I have. Put that on prime, and I'll just let that leak out until the tank is completely empty, and then we know we can start from zero. Okay, so the tank is now completely empty, nothing coming out. Now I will now fill it up with this jerry can that I've marked at the petrol station, 5 litres, 10 litres, 15 and 20. And we'll try and determine the capacity of the tank, and then work out what halfway is, and then empty that out and start looking at what reading we're getting from the fuel sender unit. Okay, so that's a full 20 litres in there, and It's pretty full. It's not completely full, but pretty full. So you maybe another litre. So I reckon it probably holds about 21. So what we'll do is empty out about 10 and a bit litres, and that should be effectively half a tank. Okay, so I've emptied out about 10 and a bit litres, maybe 10 and a half. So technically there's half a tank in there. So what we'll do now is measure the resistance that's coming from the sender unit. Okay, so the sender unit is showing 31.6 ohms. So what I need to do is work out what resistor I need to put in parallel to get that to be down around 27, which should read correctly on the meter. So I'll have to go and check the formula that I learnt many years ago and work out what we need to put in parallel with that to get it to 27 ohms. So if you look at the meter reading now with that plugged in, it's you can see it's showing below half a tank, probably about a third. So if we can adjust that so that it's measuring 27 ohms, it should be a more accurate reading at half a tank. Okay, so I've calculated using a handy dandy parallel resistor calculator online. What I need is round about 175 ohms, probably the closest to a standard size is probably 180 ohms, so I'll have a look through my little box of resistors and see if I got a 180 ohm in there. Okay, so I tried a 180 ohm resistor and we're still reading a tiny bit low, so the next size down I had was 120, which I thought might be too low, but if you look at that, it's right on halfway now, so looks like 120 is the size. And now with the tank filled back up, it's showing full, so would seem to be pretty accurate. Job done. Okay, so for the second time, I'm going to head off and see if I can get this bike registered. All the things that supposedly needed fixing, the fork seals and brake pads, etc., have all been done, so shouldn't be a problem. Let's go.
One hour later.
Okay, well, that took a couple of goes because I got to the bike shop to get it checked for rego, and this blinker decided it wasn't going to work, so I had to come all the way back here, unplug some wires, plug them back in again, and that's all good. So, but yeah, basically it's legal, which means that the bike is finished. How about that? Okay, viewers, well, that's it. It's done. Finished. Finito. This project started, I bought the bike back in November 24. It's now April 25, so about 6 months. Interesting project. Certainly threw up a few challenges to me. Probably some lessons learned there for everybody, including me. So what did we do? We changed the crankshaft, which was the main problem with this bike. Put new pistons and rings in, new valve stem seals, cleaned the carbies and tuned those. Fixed the tank, that's right. Needed to reline the tank because that was full of rust. That seems like ages ago because it was. What else did we do? Fork seals, front brakes, steering head bearings, fixed the instruments, put a new fuel sender unit in. What else did we do? Yeah, not much more. There's probably a couple more things I want to do. I've got some little labels coming for the switch blocks, and I did actually buy a new set of ignition coils, which I'll put on at some point, but that's probably enough for this video series. I really hope that you enjoyed this series. I certainly did, and it's really good to have another bike on the road and another bike to choose from when I go for a club ride or a ride. It's a nice looking bike. I've only ridden it a few hundred Ks, I guess, now, but really comfortable, nice and smooth as the Gs are. So yeah, as I say, really hope you enjoyed this series. If you did, give us a thumbs up and a subscribe. Let your mates know if there's other people who are interested in these old Suzukis, because that's pretty much all I do. What will the next project be? Who knows? Nothing planned at the moment, but you never know what could pop up. My cousin keeps sending me Suzukis on eBay and Marketplace that I should buy, but I think I'll give it a bit of a rest for a while. But yeah, it's time to sit back and actually enjoy riding this bike. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in whatever the next project is. Bye for now.